Hello and welcome to my second video on making gold in WoW. In my last video we talked a little bit about ore shuffling and I showed you some of the add-ons that I use to speed it up and a couple of macros that I use to speed up the process of shuffling the ore. But I just wanted to come back to that and just look at it in a little bit more depth and just show you how you can make gold without ever having to leave the auction house. How literally everything you need is on the auction house, and as long as you've got a profession, as long as you've invested some time into a profession, almost any profession, you can make some gold just by sitting at the auction house. So what I did, I went ahead and I knocked up a little flowchart, and I'm just going to show you how you can make some gold from the auction house with some of the different professions available to you. So if we look at the flowchart here, it all starts off, we're up here at the auction house, and from here we either buy some cloth, some leather, some ore or some herbs, which are all the basic materials that you use to craft. Now if we were to go down the ore shuffling route, we would obviously buy some ore. From there we could either prospect the ore, which would give us uncommon gems or superior gems, and then we could either craft the uncommon gems into jewellery, disenchant it, which would in turn give us some enchanting materials, which we could then turn into enchanting scrolls and sell back on the auction house. But also we will get some superior gems, and with the superior gems we could cut them into the gems that people are going to use, some strength, agility, all the primary and secondary stat gems, and we could also sell those on the auction house. If you also had a transmuter, you could take some of those uncommon gems and you could actually transmute them into more superior gems if the superior gems were selling particularly well or where the prices had been inflated, or you could also transmute them into some primal diamonds. Now, at the start of the expansion, I made a ridiculous amount of gold from Primal Diamonds, because for a while they were selling for 2 to 3k each. So you can imagine I'd only have to really sell 10 Primal Diamonds a day, and I could quite easily clear 20 to 30k. As it actually happened, I was turning over anywhere between 50 and 60 grand a day. It was really, really silly money, and it didn't really take much at all. All I had to do was spend a little bit of time getting the cuts, using the daily research to get some cuts. I think the Primal Diamond cuts actually dropped off of mobs, so I got most of those while I was leveling my first character. And then literally I transmuted a load of uncommon gems into Primal Diamonds, and I cut them and I sold them. And like I said, I was making anywhere between, I think anywhere up to 80 grand a day I was making. So it really was good money to start off with. It's not quite as good now because a lot of people got the legendary meta gems from the Ruffian quest line, so that kind of dropped off a bit. They still do sell a little bit, but they're more closer to the 500, 600, 700 gold mark, which is still not bad. It's still profitable, but it's nowhere near as good as it was to start off with. If we go back to the ore, we could go another way around it, and what we could actually do is, instead of prospecting it and cutting it into gems, let's just say, for example, on your server, gems weren't selling very well, or there was somebody else who was camping the auction house. He had more time than you to sit and camp the auction house, and you couldn't undercut him because he would always be there to undercut you. Rather than prospecting the ore, what you could do is you could actually have your blacksmith smelt it into some ghost iron bars, and from there you could use your blacksmith to craft it into some blue PvP gear, which still sells fairly well. It's a lot of people use it to get the eye level they need to either run heroic dungeons or LFR, anything like that. So it does still sell. It doesn't sell as often or as much as the jewels or the gems would, but it does sell. Or you could send it to an alchemist if you had a transmute master, and you could turn those ghost iron bars into living steel with your daily transmute. You could do both really. You could send some to a blacksmith and some to a alchemist, and do your daily transmute, and also craft PvP gear with the rest of it. Obviously, with the living still, there is a chance you can get a proc on that, and you can get anywhere up to 5 bars, and you're only spending, I think it's something like 10 bars or so. And you basically, you can proc and you can get up to 5, which is, it doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's a lot of gold there. They sell for about 600 gold on my server. Different servers obviously going to sell for different prices, but you can, if you get times 5 profit, you're looking at least $1,000 for free. Another very profitable profession, or very profitable starting material, is herbs. The good thing about herbs, they're very cheap. On my server, something like 35-40 gold a stack when they're available. And if you take those, you can mill them with an inscriptor. From the milling, you'll get Starlight Ink and Ink of the Dreams. And with the Starlight Ink, you can use your inscriptor, and you can either make shoulder enchants, which sell quite often. Everybody uses them, and they're the only source of shoulder enchants in the game. Or also at the beginning of the expansion, again, I was crafting some Darkmoon Cards. This is when everyone was just starting off. They were in blue heroic dungeon gear, and there weren't many trinkets going. One of the best trinkets, and it's often the case with, I think it's every expansion so far, the Darkmoon Cards, the Darkmoon decks give a trinket, and they've always been the best, or best in slot. Apart from heroic raiding, best in slot starting trinket. So again, Darkmoon decks for a while. Individual cards I was selling, the Tiger decks, the Tiger cards were selling for like 6k a day to start off with, and decks, I saw decks going in trade for 60, 70, 80k at the start of the expansion. I just concentrated on the decks, on the cards, and sold my card every day. And I was, if I got lucky with a Tiger card, I was getting 6k. I think the Cranes, and there was another one. They were selling as well, not as much as the Tiger, but they were selling for a few k each. The only one that wasn't really selling was the Ox trinket, the ones that give the Ox trinket, which was like a stamp trinket, and apparently wasn't very good. So if you got one of them, it was a bit of a downer for the day. But you always had the next day when you had a chance to get a different card. And coming back to the point where we milled our ink, and we got loads of Ink of the Dreams at the same time as well, we could use those inks and also the ink trader, which would allow us to trade the Ink of the Dreams for other inks that we would need, to then use our inscription to make glyphs. Now, on my server, there's only 1 or 2 alliance people that are doing glyphs with any seriousness. And because there's so few people making them, glyphs are actually selling for about 500 gold on average per glyph. They don't sell very often. They're not like gems where you'll sell loads in a day. You'll sell a few a day, but they will sell for 500 gold each. Sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on what kind of glyphs it is. In a later video, I'll actually go through and I'll go through a list of the glyphs that sell, because there are some glyphs that sell a lot better than others. Some glyphs you will hardly ever move. Some glyphs you'll sell most weekly. So yeah, we could make some glyphs from those herbs as well, and sell those on the auction house. Another thing we could do with those herbs, we could take them and we could send, if we had an elixir master alchemist, we could obviously use them to make some flasks. If if there's quite a lot of guilds on your server raiding, I don't know if people use flasks for LFR. Probably, I doubt very much they would. But if your server was quite busy with a lot of raiding guilds, you probably find that you'd sell a lot of flasks, and also if you had a potion master, you'd probably sell quite a lot of potions as well. Don't forget, with the master specialization on either of those, there's a chance that you'll proc more flasks or more potions when you create them, much like you would with the transmute master and living still. So if you've got a pretty active server with raids, a lot of raids going on, a lot of raiding guilds, you could stand to make a fair bit of gold from making pots and flasks. Now, with the other two professions I'm going to talk about here, they're not actually as profitable as these main two, the ones that I just talked with the ore and the herbs, inscription, jewel crafting, and alchemy. Are the real winners when it comes to making gold. With with level workers and tailors, you can make some gold. You can obviously you turn them into some PvP gear, and again, similar to the plate PvP gear. People, if they're leveling at alt and they just want to quickly get into LFR or even just getting into their first dungeons, they're going to buy up that gear just to speed it up because they don't want to sit there hoping for the drops that they need. And running the same dungeons over and over again, so they'll buy some PvP gear just to cheese their way into LFR. Also, I think especially with tailoring, you can make PvP gear for very little cloth, and so it's actually quite profitable to disenchant those. I believe they disenchant into ethereal shards. And then again, you get enchanting materials. So you can either sell the enchanting materials, or you can use them to make some enchant scrolls on an enchanter and sell those on the auction house. So there's just a few things to look at, and I'll put a copy of this. I'll upload a copy of this flowchart onto my website for you to download if you want to have a more detailed look at it. I haven't covered everything because obviously, for a start, there's no engineering on here. I haven't figured out a way to make a profit with engineering yet. I'd imagine there is one, probably something with I know the engineers can make pets and mounts. I see some engineering mounts on my server go for 80k, sometimes more, but it's just not something I've really played about with. I leveled an engineer purely for the achievement of leveling every profession to max. I haven't actually done much with him or her rather. So yeah, it's just a few things to think about. If you can think of anything that I've missed or anything you think I should add to the chart, feel free to comment, and I'll definitely read it and I'll try and include it. If it's something I don't know, I will try to learn it. I'm always open to new ideas. But yeah, if you liked it, please comment, rate, subscribe, and I'll see you soon in my next video.